actually direct our consciousness towards the true conception of being Krishna's servant. Either to inquire about that position, learn the art of rendering devotional service, and then practice it to the best of our ability. Therefore, machita machkata prana boni untouched. So the devotees, when they talk, they're supposed to talk about how to increase their devotional service. Especially for us, how to become more absorbed in sadhana bhakti on a daily basis. Because otherwise, unless we have some object to focus our attention on and eventually give our love or enthusiasm or our care and attention, then we're already surrounded by so many different objects of which we've had previous attachments to, and therefore those attachments arise spontaneously without our even thinking about it. So unless we train our minds to attach our consciousness to Krishna, then we're simply at the mercy of our previous activities and the past desires that we've accumulated, which are not in relationship necessarily with Krishna or with devotional service. Every conditioned soul, according to the modes of material nature, has the taste for not only what he does, but also his consciousness, what he relishes to think about, what he desires, thinking, feeling, what he likes to think about, what he feels strongly about, and what he wills to perform. Every conditioned soul, under the modes of material nature, if we're under the mode of ignorance sometimes, then spontaneously will arise within our mind thinking about the mode of ignorance. And then we'll feel about it. Usually it's, here is someone I don't like, let me get revenge or something like that. Feeling, strong feeling. And then we do something. Or we don't do something. We just accumulate and wish if only the thunderbolt would come and strike this devotee, then I'd feel much better. So Indra, if you want to give me something for my birthday, then send a thunderbolt, but not to me. So in the mode of passion, we're thinking about how much I can gain and how much I can enjoy in the material world. Especially how I can make a nice arrangement so I can eat nicely, sleep nicely, and if there's some mating, that's cherry on the top. And then of course defense, then whatever I accumulate in order for my eating, sleeping, mating, then I have to protect, because this is my existence. So in the mode of passion, the idea is to accumulate something to make our eating, sleeping, mating, defending more enjoyable than it would normally be without all the paraphernalia that goes into decorating it. And then there is the mode of goodness. Freedom from attachment, freedom from ignorance, of misidentifying ourselves with the body unnecessarily. Generally means for the Kali Yuga, it means we wash our hands before I eat once in a while. And we think we're good. Although the faucet is at least 15 feet away, and it takes a great effort, but I'll go through the effort to wash my hands. And if I can clean my room once a month, then I'm pure. Or whatever. Mode of goodness is not externally, cleanliness is important, but also internal cleanliness in the mode of goodness to become free from attachment, fear, and anger. If there is attachment, if there is fear, if there is anger, it is not the mode of goodness. Therefore, thinking, feeling, and willing should be done in the mode of goodness. And in this age, of course, or any age, thinking about Krishna, feeling about Krishna's service, and then willing to do it, or thinking about Krishna and feeling about Krishna and wanting to serve him, this is different stages of what's described in that verse. If we hear properly, and then we think about Krishna, and then we feel to do his service, and then we will to do his service, then we'll get to Shanti. We'll make progress towards liberation. Whatever stage of life we're in presently, it doesn't really matter. If we have the enthusiasm, the desire, the intelligence, even in the mode of ignorance, if we transcend it by thinking about Krishna, feeling about Krishna's service, and willing to execute what we heard to please Krishna, then the result is that we'll gradually become purified by associating with Krishna, from ignorance to passion, to goodness to transcendence. The question is just about how often, how consistently. Yesham tesham sadatam yuktanam. The more we're connected with Krishna and Krishna consciousness, then the more we make advancement out of the modes of material nature. And finally, of course, that should be accompanied by priti purvakam. Priti means a positive feeling. Devotional service has to be voluntary and willing. Enthusiastic is the best, but at least with care and attention. At least with some positive consciousness, some hopefulness, something positive. Then the result is that we'll more easily be able to remember Krishna, and it's in the association with Krishna, who's unlimitedly blissful, that we can actually experience. Even we may not be in the sun right now, but if we go out into the sunlight, we'll certainly experience illumination and some heat. So, tesham sadatam yuktanam bhajantam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam. When Krishna sees that we're just making an effort, not that we have to be perfect when we're doing our service. Krishna no one in the spiritual world feels themselves to be perfect. Everyone feels themselves to be fallen, that insignificant, simply a humble servant. So not that we have to feel ourselves, but when Krishna sees our effort, that we're trying, then he reciprocates by giving us intelligence how to do whatever we're doing and more steadily, more enthusiastically. That's the intelligence that we're looking for. Prahlad Maharaj, when he was offered a benediction, he didn't ask for anything material. Of course, that's not in the Bhagavatam, or it's not in the... But anyhow, in the Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj says, Naive dvije paradharatya vaitaranyas tvavirya gayama mahanmrita magnichitak soche vimukha chetas indriyartam maya sukhayam bharam uvatam vimudan. Prahlad Maharaj said he was offered benedictions, but he said, I don't need anything. I don't need a benediction. Because whenever I chant your holy name, my mind merges immediately into your name, form, quality, and pastimes. I'm in an ocean of transcendental ecstasy and love and bliss. What more do I want? It's always becoming more and more pleasurable at every moment. There's nothing better than this. But I'm lamenting to see these rascals who are working hard to create a world of material happiness of which they're simply suffering. So therefore I'm working in the material world in order to try to help them make some progress, because they're supposed to be part of the same family that I'm part of. But they're just crazy right now. Crazy, being pulled by the material modes of nature, and without any other idea of something better. For Prahlad Maharaj, when he asked for a benediction, he said, if you want to give me a benediction, my dear Lord, please make my devotional service more strong and more steady. Strong in enthusiasm, or more steady in engagement. So that should be our desire also. So if we sit down in the morning before we plan our day, we should think, what can I do today to make my day, my activities during this day, more constant in Krishna service with more enthusiasm. And if we just think like that, then if we get one idea what to do, then that day is successful. And what is the result of Krishna giving us, why is he giving us intelligence? To make our devotional service more strong and steady? Because Tesham eva nukampartam ahama jnana jam tamaha nasham yam yama bhavasto jnana dipena bhashvata. Because I dwell in the heart, Krishna says, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So if we use that intelligence, in spite of whatever difficulty we may have to go through, as Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita, and one should has to pass the test of, such a spiritual man, one should accept a bona fide spiritual in the line of spiritual master in the line of disciple succession from the Lord himself. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve that spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. The satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is a secret advancement in spiritual life. Inquiries and service constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is service, inquiries from the spiritual master will not be effective. One has to pass the test of the spiritual master. And when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. So it's not that Krishna gives us the intelligence and that's where the end is. We get some understanding. No, we have to go through the tests that were fixed in that intelligence in spite of the ups and downs of material existence. Then Krishna becomes compassionate upon us. Tete nukampam susamikshamano punjana evatmakritam vipakam ridvakva bhubir vidadanmanaste jiveta Vivat San Mukti Sadesa Dayabak. Padesa of Dayabak. So, Tate Nu Kampam. We don't get Krishna's mercy because of our pride. It's because of our feeling of dependency upon him, taking shelter of him. And that comes, the willingness or the desire to do it is Tad buddhiyas tad atmanas tad nishtas tad parayanaha gachanyana puna avritim jnana nidukta kalmashaha. First of all, hearing, fertilizing our buddhi, our intelligence. Not blind intelligence, not material intelligence, but real intelligence about ourselves as a soul, about taking shelter of Paramatma in this world, conditioned world, about the ultimate goal of Krishna, understanding with clear intelligence who I am, what the goal of life is, and how to achieve it. Then we can understand that we're conditioned in the material world due to our mind's covering of the material energy. And that our business is to conquer the mind. Udarat atmanatmanam atmanam avasarayat atmaiva yatmano bandur atmaiva ripur atmanas bandur atmatmanas tasya enaivat matmana jita anatmanas tu shatrudve varte tatmaiva shatrudvat jitatmana prasantasya paramatmam samahita shitosna sukadukeshu tatamana pamayanaya. The man has to elevate himself by his own mind, not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. For one who's conquered the mind is the best of friends, and for one who's failed to do so, his very mind will become the greatest enemy. For one who's conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. For such a person, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor, they're all the same. So we reach Krishna by conquering our mind, and how do we conquer our mind? That's described here. Matirana Krishna parataksatova vitobi padyeta griha vratanam adanta gobir vishatantam isram punak punas charvananam. Generally our material, our consciousness, as material is described here as thinking, feeling, willing, is absorbed in material things, taking shelter of our material existence, either personally or through the advice of others, or a combination of both, all to protect our are sense gratification. Although it's the same thing over and over again, but generally people don't know that the goal of life is to obtain Krishna, and therefore they choose something insignificant compared to Krishna. Anything compared to Krishna is insignificant. And andayatan dirapagiyamanas te pisha tantra urubadi andayatan dirapagiyamanas te pisha tantra urudami bhara. They're blind, they don't know who they are, they don't know about Paramatma, they don't know about Krishna. And what's happening is they're taking shelter of someone also who doesn't know about Krishna or Paramatma or themselves as spiritual beings. And they make no progress, just they chew the chewed. Therefore one has to choose Naishamatis Tavaru Rukramangrin Sprishatninat Bhagavanganartho. Here some Padaru Jayvishekam Niskinchananam Nanivrita Yadvat. One has to choose someone who's pure, like Srila Prabhupada. Hear from him, try to become enthusiastic, try to understand our reality as a soul, try to understand who we actually are, who everyone else is, what this material world is, who Krishna is, what the influence of time and Prakriti are, understand these things clearly, and then with clear consciousness, try to render service to the spiritual master, and through him to the succession to Krishna. Then one will actually be able to put the mind upon, then the mind will become absorbed in Krishna, and one will realize one's dependent upon Krishna. But before that, tad buddhyas tad atmanas nishta, one will get liberation from this vihaya kama yak sarvam brahmam sharti nispriha nirmamo nirahankara sashantim adigachete. We'll get free from our real enemies, which are desires for sense gratification, material desires, this sense of possessiveness over the material energy, and this false ego which we've acquired due to our attachments to the material existence. This is our real problem. Everything else compared to that is no problem. It's simply to help us get rid of our problems. Then, Esha Brahmistiti Partha Nayam Prapi Vimuyati Stityasamantakale Prapti, no. Esha Brahmistiti Partha Nayam Prapi Vimuyati Stistasyam Antakale something. Antakale Stityasam Antakale Antakale P. Okay, just left this P. Stityasam Antakale P. Brahmanirvana Richate. That is the way of spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is never bewildered, being so situated even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. So, the summary is, just like Bhishma Dev, we practice devotional service to become more steady in our service, to become more enthusiastic, more Krishna conscious, and tolerate the ups and downs of our material existence. And the greater the challenge, the greater the reward of tolerance comes, The more we become detached from the material existence, by the more Krishna reciprocates with us and blesses us with genuine spiritual understanding, genuine spiritual experience. He's there as Paramatma, just waiting for us to perform devotional service in any circumstance, and when we do that, then Krishna reciprocates a proportion to our surrender. Or as Prabhupada writes, interestingly enough, in the verse I read last night, the end of the fifth chapter, Krishna consciousness, however, a pure soul is the eternal servant of Krishna as his fragmented part and parcel. He comes into contact with Maya illusion due to his desire to lord it over Maya, and that is the cause of his many sufferings. As long as he is in contact with matter, he has to execute work in terms of material necessities. Krishna consciousness, however, brings one to spiritual life, even when one is within the jurisdiction of matter. For it is an arousing of spiritual existence by practice in the material world. The more one is advanced, the more he is freed from the clutches of matter. The Lord is not partial toward anyone. Everything depends upon one's practical performance of duties in Krishna consciousness, which helps one control the senses in every respect and conquer the influence of desire and anger. One who stands fast in Krishna consciousness, controlling the above-mentioned passions, remains factually in the transcendental stage, or Brahma Nirvana. So, as it says here, the Lord is not partial toward anyone. Everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in Krishna consciousness, which helps one control the senses in every respect and conquer the influence of desire and anger. The one who stands fast in Krishna consciousness, controlling the above-mentioned passions, remains factually in the transcendental stage, or Brahma Nirvana. Shaknoti haiva yakshodum prakshariri mokshana kama krodo bhavan vegan syukta sakinara. Before that, yehi samsparshya bhogat dukkha yena va evate adyantavanta kontiyane teshu ramate buddha. And then shaknoti haiva yakshodum prakshariri mokshana. One who's able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is a yogi and he is happy in this world. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Hare Krišna Maharaj. We are hearing a lot, and I was questioning how to get those hearings in practical life. Because sometimes I have a problem with remembering points from lectures, but to speak of connecting these points with my life and applying them in practical life. What can I do?
Write down what you hear in the lecture. And that's why Srila Vyasadeva wrote the books, because our memories, as soon as we contemplate any object of the senses and go through the process, then we lose our memory and our intelligence. But if we have something written down, or something marked in something placed in the book, or something in the book that we want to go back and refresh ourselves as what we're going to do today. This is what I'm going to apply in my life today. And when we forget it, then just look it up. Just look it up, or look what we wrote down, and then apply it. So we don't have to do everything all at once. We just have to do one thing at a time. If you have to, when you find Narada Muni where he is, Prabhupada said, then look for his footsteps and take one step at a time, and eventually you'll find him. Anything? Yes?
You were mentioning about the exchange between devotees, that they should help each other to be absorbed in sadhana.
Yes, that's right. If that, at least that, I mean, they can help us be absorbed in ecstasy if they're on that platform too. You know, Prabhupada walks into the room and everyone's in ecstasy. That's good enough.
Can you maybe elaborate in the lecture instruction within the sex loving exchanges with devotees? Can you elaborate on the aspect of opening one's mind and inquiring confidentially? What actually that would be?
What that means?
Yeah.
It means what my realizations in Krishna consciousness are, and ask others for advice about their realizations in Krishna consciousness. That may mean, you know, some of the instructions that help us make progress towards Krishna consciousness to a certain extent, how to become more clean or organized in our life for Krishna, in order to perform devotional service in a certain better circumstances. So, generally speaking, we want to learn how to, as it says, organize our life in such a way is that throughout the 24 hours a day we cannot help but think about Krishna. So such advice is also Krishna consciousness, how to organize our life better and to serve Krishna. But generally the goal should be Krishna consciousness. If we don't become Krishna conscious at the time of death, or we don't make advancement towards Krishna consciousness, then then this life will be wasted. And if we're engaged in association with the devotees, we don't help them make advancement towards the goal of life, then we're wasting their time, and we're wasting our time. We're misleading them. And we're misleading ourselves. We're being misled and misleading others. So that's a big standard. That's quite a high standard. But that standard we have to keep in mind. Otherwise, we'll never make advancement in devotional service and have proper relations with the devotees.
If I can follow up, what if a devotee is expecting some exchange at an ascendant level from you? How should we react to that?
Well, if a devotee, the question is who's a devotee?
Aspiring devotee.
Okay, so Tesham Saratam Yuktanam. So someone who's chanting Hare Krishna, Rupa Goswami advises us, Krishneti Yasya Giritam Manasadriyeta. If they're chanting Hare Krishna, they're considered to be a devotee, but we may only associate with them within our mind respectfully, but we may not intimately associate with them. Generally speaking, we have different levels of devotees, and the topmost devotee who's advanced in undeviated devotional service, and his heart is void of the propensity to criticize others, who's giving us this knowledge transcendentally purified as a transparent by medium. We keep that devotee within our heart, or those devotees within our heart, and we relate to everyone else according to their instructions, such as Rupa Goswami. So Krishna will give us the intelligence how to properly act towards others by explaining to us what is, how to maintain our Krishna consciousness in relation with this devotee. And if we can help them, we can help them. If we can't help them, how to avoid their association and just respect them within our mind. Not everyone we should intimately associate with.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, you mentioned about this passing the test. Why Krishna gives sometimes tests which we cannot pass? Because then after happening something we see behind what should the right thing to do.
Well, then he'll give you another test to help you pass it. That much advancement you made. Unless we were tested, it's not that we're going to pass every test. Did you pass every test you ever took in school? But then the next time we take the test, we'll do better. We have to practice. Just the realization that there was a test and I didn't pass it should make us a little humble, a little determined to do what's necessary to pass it the next time.
How to avoid then that this not put us more down, that this encourages us that next time we will pass it?
Read Prabhupada's books. Chant our rounds more attentively. Get fortalize. Make our intelligence stronger by hearing more attentively about Krishna and the philosophy. And then absorb our mind more in Krishna service, in Krishna consciousness. So that when the test comes, even there is some problem, we're not able to be 100% perfect in passing it. Still, if the mind becomes steadier and stronger by practice, then we'll see it as an opportunity rather as a disadvantage. And if Maya catches hold of us and makes us depressed because of it, then we're in ignorance, that's all. Then Maya is torturing us to get us out of ignorance. Maya is trying to help us by making us miserable. So we can ask, why am I miserable? And we'll realize it's because I've fallen victim to the illusory energy. I'm thinking I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller, and when I'm not enjoying controlling, then I become depressed. But it's all illusion. The depression is illusion. My desire to enjoy and control is an illusion. So the illusion is meant for suffering, to get us out of illusion. So we have to see that also as from the spiritual point of view. It's an opportunity to get out of to encourage us to get out of illusion. Everyone has come to the material world with some desire, to one degree or another, control and enjoy, including Brahma, what to speak of our poor selves. And then naturally, when we can't enjoy and control, we become disappointed, because that's why we came here. But that disappointment is good, because because our nature has become happy, then we should inquire, why am I suffering? Like Sanatana Goswami inquired, why am I suffering? So we should inquire about that, use our intelligence to figure out why I'm suffering. Then if we use our intelligence in the right way, into the right direction, then we'll get out of the suffering eventually, and we'll no longer get depressed, because we'll no longer feel this desire to control and enjoy the material energy. Anything else? Yes.
Prabhupada said that we should organize our lives. You mentioned that we should be 24 hours engaged in Krishna service. So, but at least for me, it's not only about organization, because probably we also need some capacity for being 24 hours. So what does that, practically, for me it seems like there is some gap.
Well, that's good. It's only some gap. You're doing quite well. For most of us, there's quite a gap. Therefore, it's not just like, for instance, Prabhupada said a householder should get 50% of their income. So that's a statement that Rupa Goswami did. But then he says in another place, give something. Can't give 50%. Give us 1% of your income. Give something. So it's not expected that all of a sudden we're going to engage 24 hours a day, but at least engage a little bit more today. Then that's victory. We made some progress. And the difference between us and pure consciousness is not that great. In other words, this process is so powerful that if we just practice every day, very shortly we'll come to the pure consciousness that we're looking for. Yogas chalati manasa. As soon as we try and make a little advancement, Maya will try and bewilder us by so many different allurements. So it's a fight. Even a little advancement is a fight. So we make a little advancement in a day, then we should be feeling good that actually I conquered Maya to a little bit. That's quite a achievement. Maya is not some small little energy that we just conquer over. She's ruling unlimited universes. So that's quite an accomplishment, to just make a little advancement every day. Anything else? Khwala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.